Have you ever experienced something you just couldn't explain? Well, welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving right into the deep end of theology and philosophy to tackle one of the most hotly debated concepts out there, miracles. We're going to unpack the profound impact these extraordinary events have on religious practice and individual faith. Think of this as a journey where we place human experience, historical claims, and hard scientific skepticism right next to each other to see how they collide.
Here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with communities and faith, then move on to defining the miraculous. Next, we'll jump into an epic philosophical clash with Hume's skepticism and Swinburne's defense, and wrap it all up with modern science and evidence.
All right, part one, communities and faith. Let's look at how this stuff actually binds people together.
So, here's a question for you. Do religious communities and their shared belief systems rely entirely on experiencing the divine directly? We know that an individual's religious experience doesn't just stop with them. It usually acts as the glue for their broader community, strengthening social cohesion. But we really need to ask if it's the absolutely exclusive foundation they rely on.
It's actually wild when you think about it. Literally all major world religions root their origins right in the middle of a massive, foundational religious experience. Judaism traces its covenant back to Moses and the Ten Commandments. Islamic practice centers around Ramadan, commemorating the revelation of the Quran. Christianity is built around Easter and the miracle of the resurrection. And Buddhism observes Wesak, celebrating the Buddha's enlightenment. These historic encounters are the absolute bedrock of modern communal faith.
But hey, not everyone agrees that everyday practices are always literal, direct encounters with God. Take prayer, for instance. You've got St. Teresa of Avila, who saw prayer as a profound, direct religious experience, a literal communication with the divine. But then you have philosopher D.Z. Phillips, who flips the script completely. Think about it. He argues that when someone prays, they aren't just presenting a list of facts to a supernatural being. Instead, it's an appeal to their own inner strength. So for Phillips, prayer might not be a mystical event at all, but rather a really vital psychological and communal tool.
Moving right along to Section 2. Defining the miraculous. Let's step up from everyday prayer to the truly extraordinary.
If we're going to evaluate miracles, we kind of need to agree on what one is. Enter the famous empiricist David Hume. He gives us a very strict definition. He says a miracle is a clear violation of the laws of nature, laws that have been established by firm and unalterable past experience. Basically, because the laws of nature are based on centuries of consistent observation, a true miracle requires a complete break in that natural order. If it has a natural explanation, under Hume's definition, it simply isn't a miracle.
But wait, modern scholars totally push back on this. Theologian Charles H. Dodd argues that Hume's definition misses the most important part, the meaning behind the event. Dodd says a miracle is a remarkable occurrence that brings an undeniable sense of the presence and power of God. In this view, an event doesn't necessarily have to break the laws of physics to be miraculous. It just needs to reveal a divine agent at work. So your takeaway here is a big question. Does a miracle have to break physics, or does it just need to carry profound meaning?
That brings us to Section 3, Hume's skepticism. This is where the real tension kicks in. Hume doesn't just define miracles, he builds an absolute fortress against believing in them by systematically attacking human testimony. First, he points out that the laws of nature have constant past experience on their side. Second, he argues that witnesses claiming miracles are rarely educated or trustworthy enough. Third, and honestly we can probably all relate to this, humans just have a natural bias toward marvels. We want to believe in the fantastic. Fourth, he controversially claimed these stories usually start in uneducated communities. And finally, since different religions have contradictory miracle claims, they effectively cancel each other out. For Hume, someone's testimony literally never outweighs the fixed laws of nature.
All right, Section 4, Swinburne's defense. Now we bring in philosopher Richard Swinburne to challenge Hume's airtight logic.
Swinburne creates a massive paradigm shift in how we view science. Hume treats the laws of nature as prescriptive, meaning they are fixed rules that dictate what absolutely must happen. But Swinburne points out that actually, scientific laws are descriptive. They don't dictate what the universe has to do tomorrow. They merely summarize what we've seen it do in the past. Scientific knowledge is just our current, best version of the truth, and it's constantly evolving.
Philosopher Brian Davis has this perfect analogy for this. He notes that for all of human history, it was a quote-unquote law of nature that people do not walk on the moon. If someone in the year 1700 claimed a man walked on the moon, Hume's logic would completely dismiss it as an impossible violation of firm past experience. But
Just because something hasn't been observed before doesn't mean it's inherently impossible forever. Exceptions to the rule happen all the time.
And Swinburne doesn't stop there. He goes right after Hume's dismissal of testimony. He notes that all of our knowledge, even the scientific laws Hume cherishes, relies on three basic things: our own memories, the testimony of others, and physical traces left behind. Swinburne argues that if this exact standard of evidence works for science, it's absolutely fair game for miracles too. Physical traces plus reliable testimony equals reasonable historical evidence.
Finally, Section 5, Modern Science and Evidence. Let's take this out of the realm of philosophy and look at some hard modern data.
68. That is the exact number of miracle claims at Lourdes, a village in France, that have been officially proclaimed authentic. And guys, this isn't just ancient word of mouth. These claims have been evaluated by an independent international commission of medical specialists. We are talking about doctors and skeptics who operate completely independently of the Catholic Church.
Out of millions of visitors, only 68 have passed what is basically a ridiculously stringent four-step medical check. The requirements are intense. First, the original illness must be exceptionally well documented by medical professionals. Second, it had to be incredibly serious and untreatable by current medicine. Third, and this is wild, the cure has to happen with shocking speed. Imagine symptoms vanishing within hours. And fourth, the healing has to be permanent, lasting for years, to definitively rule out a temporary remission.
Let's look at real cases. Vittorio Micheli was cured of a malignant hip tumor in 1963. Serge François was cured of a herniated disc in 2002. These aren't just folklore passed down through the centuries. These are highly documented modern medical events. They provide the exact kind of physical traces Swinburne was talking about, before and after X-rays, that science, even with all our current knowledge, absolutely struggles to explain as mere coincidence.
So as we wrap up this explainer, we find ourselves standing at a fascinating crossroads between unyielding skepticism and the profound reality of human experience. We've seen how religious experiences weave communities together, and we've weighed Hume's absolute demand for natural regularity against Swinburne's reminder that our scientific understanding is always evolving. So I'm going to leave you with this final thought. If scientific laws merely describe what we've seen in the past, rather than rigidly dictating the future, can we ever truly 100% rule out the miraculous? Keep questioning everything, and thanks for exploring this with me.